Hey everybody, today we are going to be discussing the religion and government of the Aztec civilization. So, some of this information will be based on your reading and your notes from Friday. Some of this will be new information. Make sure you pay close attention and complete the questions along the way in this Ed puzzle. So, let's start with Aztec religion. The Aztec religion was polytheistic. So, again, polytheistic or polytheism is the worship of many gods and goddesses and or goddesses. All right, so the worship of many gods is polytheistic. It is believed that the Aztecs worshipped up to 1,000 different gods and goddesses. The gods represented the forces of nature. So there was a god of the sun, and a god of corn, and a god of rain, and a god of the rivers and lakes, and a god of fire, and a god of death, and a god of war. Okay, there were gods that represented each city, and those were called patron gods. So the gods that represented the cities were known as the patron god. So for example, this illustration that I have on the screen, this is of the god, and I'm going to butcher how to say his name, so I'm not even going to try. But this god, we'll call him H. Huitzilopochtli. He is the god of war, the god of the sun, the god of sacrifice. He is also the patron god of Tenochtitlan. Okay, so he's the patron god of the Aztec capital city that we talked about last week, Tenochtitlan. Okay, the gods also, there was a god for each day. Okay, so the gods represented every aspect of the Aztec life. Okay, so that is why the center of Aztec life was their religion. No matter if you were a noble at the highest class of the social structure, or you were a commoner at the lowest level of the social structure, and or anywhere in between, religion was at the center of your life. Without pleasing the gods, without worshiping the gods, without making offerings to the gods, nothing could be possible. And the universe would end, is what they believed. Okay, so Aztec religion was polytheistic, many, many gods and goddesses. And the gods represented every aspect of life: nature, cities, days, and so on. So the Aztecs, they had altars in their homes that they could worship the gods at. They had a special place in their home for worship. They also had temples. Okay, and temples are places of worship. And Aztec temples, if you look at this diagram of Tenochtitlan, the two largest structures are the temples. So if you look at, so everyone look at the screen. So if you look at what I'm circling, this is called the Great Temple in Tenochtitlan. So this is a step pyramid, Everyone knows what a pyramid is, right? This is a step pyramid. You can tell it looks like steps. You're walking up steps. And at the top are two temples. The blue one is for the rain god, and the red one is for the sun god. And that's where the sacrifices were made and the offerings were made. And we'll talk more about those in a minute. Okay, so the temple was the place of worship for mainly the priest. These are steps for the priest to walk up and down, and for the people as well. All right, when there were religious ceremonies, people would gather in the streets to watch and participate in these ceremonies. So let's talk more about priests. Okay, remember, priests were in the highest social class of the Aztec civilization. It's for a reason. It's because, again, religion is very important to them. So priests, they used a complex calendar to set religious ceremonies each year. We'll talk more about the calendar tomorrow, but you just need to know that priests are the ones that set the religious ceremonies each year. Okay? And a religious ceremony, another way of saying it, is a celebration, a festival that had music and dance and processions, and sometimes people would dress up as the gods and reenact the Aztec mythology stories. Okay, these are days set aside specifically to honor the gods. The priest would perform sacrifices to keep the gods happy. So a sacrifice is an offering. They would offer up something to the gods to keep them happy. Sometimes it was food. Sometimes it was animals. And sometimes, for the Aztecs, it was humans that they would offer to the gods. Okay? And so human sacrifices, a human sacrifice would be, as their belief was, that they would, in front of a public ceremony, they would cut the chest of a human open, alive, and pull out the heart, because they believed that the heart and the blood fed the god of the sun and would keep the sun rising every day. Because they believed if they did not keep the sun god fed, he would lose the war with darkness. Darkness would overtake Earth, and life would be over. So these human sacrifices, as they believed it, kept feeding and energizing the god of the sun. There were about 10,000 human sacrifices each year. Some of these humans were volunteers. They volunteered to sacrifice themselves. It was an honor for them to give their life in this religious ceremony, this offering to the gods. But most of the time, it was prisoners of war that they enslaved. They would use these prisoners as sacrifice to the gods. And sometimes the Aztecs would go to war with other groups of people just to get and capture prisoners for sacrifice. When this great temple was built, in its opening, they sacrificed around 20,000 people that day in honor of its opening. Okay, because they want it to be a blessed place by the gods. Priests, and file known priests. Priests were They went through a lot of training and education to prepare for their duty, um, to honor the gods, to be in charge of these temples. So that's a little bit about the Aztec religion. I don't want you to specifically, you don't need to specifically know each and every god or even the important gods. I want you to know the foundation, that they worshipped many gods, that they held religious ceremonies, and they made sacrifices, even human sacrifices to the gods to keep them happy. So let's talk a little bit about government. Oh, one more thing. This is the remains of the step pyramid with the temple at top. As you can see, here are the steps to go up and down. You can see how small the people are compared to the size of the temple. Okay, there's a reason why the temple was the largest structure in the city, and it was the highest up, as they were trying to, as they say, climb to the heavens, to step up to the heavens, okay, to be close to them as when they made their offering to the gods and goddesses. So Aztec government, the emperor ruled, right? It's an empire. It's vast amount of land, a collection of land, and the red is indicating the Aztec Empire. So an emperor ruled, and other nobles and priests helped. They gave advice. They helped govern certain parts of the empire. Fierce warriors defended the empire. It was, again, we're going to connect this to religion. Aztecs believed that it was their religious responsibility to be a warrior, defend the empire. Okay, so boys around the age of 13 to 15 started training to become a warrior, and a fierce warrior that showed no mercy to the enemy. They conquered. They conquered people, and the people that they conquered had to pay tributes, which we talked about last week, or forced payment. So they had to pay a forced payment of a product, so corn or gold or jade, or they could also have a forced payment of a service where they had to do government work on a bridge or a causeway or whatever the government needed done. Constant war and tribute gained territory and economic power. So the Aztec Empire gained power through territory. They gained a lot more territory than the starting city of Tenochtitlan, but also they gained economic power as these conquered people were forced to give them payment. A couple notes on the warriors, because we're going to do a little activity today. The warriors, again, were fearsome, I should say. When they entered into a city that they conquered, there are examples of where they would kill everyone, men, women, and children, no matter what age. They would only keep the warriors surviving, because then they would take the warriors back. Because again, the warriors are in the best shape. They're in the best health. So they would take the warriors back home as prisoners for the human sacrifices, or as to be their enslaved people. The Aztec government continued to expand its territory because it needed farmland. As more people, again, it started as one city, but it continued to grow and the population continued